Welcome to this live Ask Me Anything session with the Jetpack team. Hi everyone, thank you all for joining. You can submit your questions in the Q&A system on the Google I/O website. If you're joining from YouTube or other platforms, you need to be registered in the I/O website in order to ask a question. My name is Manuel Vivo from the Android Developer Solutions team. And with me, we have...
Hi, I'm Ian Lake. I'm a tech lead on the Jetpack team, responsible for fragments, activity, navigation, and a bunch of other stuff too.
Hi, I'm Amanda Alexander. I'm a product manager on the Jetpack team.
Hi, I'm Yigit Boyar. I'm a technical lead on the Jetpack team.
Cool, thank you all for being here. Before we start answering questions, there is another Jetpack Compose Ask Me Anything session happening tomorrow. Therefore, we'll be prioritizing non-Compose related questions first. Okay, so let's kick off. The first question is from Anna, and this is for Amanda. It feels like many Android X libraries are progressing slowly. Are you happy with Android X development pace, or do you feel maybe it's spread too thin?
That's a great question. That's something that we think about internally as well. I would say that we are trying to develop for a lot of different use cases and meet a lot of the different developer needs out there, which is plenty. And we do have a lot of different libraries. And so right now we're constantly thinking about ways that we can optimize for supporting the libraries that we already have and iterating. Some of them are in alpha, and so we need to keep iterating and make them become stable. And some of them are new ideas or new concepts that we want to cover and make sure that we listen to the feedback that we're getting from the developer community and create those libraries or support those use cases. And so there is a trade-off where we have to think about where do we want to put our developer efforts and match that with the developer needs that are out there. So that's something that we're constantly evaluating and thinking through. We are happy to directly answer the question. I think we are happy with the progress that Jetpack has been making. About 88% of the top 10,000 apps in the Play Store have at least one Jetpack library. So that's great coverage, and we want to continue to grow and support the developer community.
Cool, thank you. There is the next question. It's a classic one, and it's probably for it. Is live data going to be deprecated? This one is from Chris.
Chris, this is like the perfect icebreaker question. I mean, like the TLDR is no. Now, for like one fundamental reason is that live data is the only solution we provide for Java programming language users, so that will stay. That being said, over the years, you'll probably realize that we've been adopting Kotlin coroutines more and more, including Kotlin Flow. Now, we work very closely with JetBrains to make sure Kotlin Flow has a very good first-class study on Android, story on Android, and our library is supported properly. We, in fact, base our new libraries on top of it. So there is there's a reason for people to also start using coroutines so that you use the same things that Jetpack libraries use, but that doesn't mean that we'll drop support for live data. In fact, that will mostly serve as our backwards compatibility story for Java users. There's a very good reason to have live data because it's very simple, and RxJava or coroutines are not as straightforward as you would wish. We want to make coroutines simple, and if you are using Java, like RxJava is a great alternative, but live data for simple cases is still okay. Last but not least, we just published a new blog post comparing live data to Flow and how you can migrate between the two. So please check out the Android developers account on Medium for the article, and that should hopefully in detail answer your concerns. But no, it's not being deprecated.
Cool. Thank you for clarifying that. The next question, it's from Jeff, and it's for Ian. What's going on with multiple backstacks?
Multiple backstacks. So multiple backstacks is this concept of being able to save and restore the state of multiple screens on your app. So you can think of like the bottom nav case where you have different bottom nav items and each one needs to kind of retain their state. And just earlier today, we released the first version of the navigation component as well as the fragments library that support saving and restoring state, this multiple backstack case. And to really make it super easy to adopt we've actually made it the default if you're using the navigation UI helpers. So you just call setup with nav controller, and your bottom nav will instantly have this multiple backstack kind of behavior. Same thing with a navigation view if you're using like a side navigation drawer, to just get it out of the box. If you're not using navigation, there's the underlying APIs in Fragments. And best of all, the same multiple backstack support is also coming to the Navigation Compose library. So if you're using navigation alongside Jetpack Compose, it also is really easy to use. It's literally 2 lines of code to enable multiple backstacks in your app. And we've actually updated all the docs and stuff to match that. So you'll find that all the docs are kind of using multiple backstacks by default now, which was really awesome.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I think it's very highly requested feature from the community for a long time. So I'm very excited to see that landing.
So all we needed was an AMA question for Ian to ship this thing? Really?
Yeah, that was the one. Cool. Next question from Maria. When should I use Work Manager instead of coroutines? Probably I can take this one. For me, my opinion is it depends on how critical the operation that you're performing is. So if the operation is relevant as long as the app or certain screen is opened, you can use coroutines. For example, like fetching some user information. But if the operation needs to outlive the application lifetime, then you would use Work Manager, for example, when downloading files or uploading logs to your server. So yeah, so we say that. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think the most important part for me about Work Manager is the deferrable part. If you think about it, like uploading something or downloading something is, when it's really important, it needs to happen, right? So even if your UI goes away, you still want to do that action, right? And those are the exact kind of things that Work Manager works really well at. While, when you think about coroutines and stuff, those are always tied to a scope, right? So you wouldn't want to do something that's tied to a single fragment or activity that would just get canceled when that goes away. So there's a little bit different of a use case between the two on, what are you doing when, right? And how deferrable and how guaranteed does it actually need to be?
I think like Work Manager has been expanded their API surface. Now you can run like services in the foreground as well with Work Manager. So I can see like how this can be confusing for some people. Where's the boundaries between coroutines and Work Manager? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think like something to keep in mind, like Work Manager is a lot more complicated. It provides these guarantees where you wake up your application, look for network, etc. All of that has a cost. So when you're implementing something, if coroutines works, just use it. But is it like the case Ian mentioned this perfectly? You want to upload some file, you want to send an email. You cannot just say, oh, user left this screen, let's not send this email, right? Like you want that email to go. And that's when you need Work Manager. Otherwise, coroutines.
Cool. You
can use coroutines on Work Manager too, so they're not really isolated.
That's true. Cool. Next question from Merab. Really happy that you allow contributions through GitHub. Do you consider expanding the list of the libraries which can be contributed by the community? Want to take this one?
Yes, I am so happy to receive the question. Like we want to, but it's not that straightforward for us. Now, if you ever tried contributing, GitHub is actually just a mirror, and every PR you send there like goes back into our AOSP infrastructure to be tested and verified. And then this adds some overhead to the whole process. So we want to add more libraries, but when we add new libraries, like the library maintainers need to commit certain time to review those PRs and everything else, and that takes time. We also, as we see more contributions through GitHub, we detect more problems in our workflow and fix them. So over time, I do anticipate we will have more libraries. We actually have a couple on the list, but we are more focused on making the current contributor workflow better for existing projects than expanding it to more projects.
Yeah, I will add that like all the contributions have been really helpful. Actually, in this last fragment release, we had one of our major features, fragment strict mode for catching things, was done entirely by external contributions. And that just blows me away that someone was able to kind of take out a large feature. And we'd written the bugs already and stuff. So check out our bug bounty hot list if you're looking for things to contribute to. And just went through piece by piece and had done 15 CLs to all make this major feature come out. And that just like makes me so happy that we can have this contributions from the community and actually like make the whole world a much better kind of library.
Yeah, definitely. Keep it up. It is a great work from the community as well coming. Okay, next question from Tony. With Kotlin multi-platform mobile getting a lot of traction, are there any plans to have any Jetpack libraries to support it? Maybe?
Yes. Yes, with an asterisk. So, we are closely following the Kotlin multi-platform development to figure out how people use it, like what would it mean for libraries to support Kotlin multi-platform. And we are definitely looking into this, but I want everyone to realize that no matter what, we'll always be focused on Android first. So that will be our primary goal for foreseeable future. That doesn't mean we would not support other platforms. But when we do support other platforms, we need to make sure the ease of use of Jetpack libraries directly translates to there as well. So right now, because Kotlin multi-platform is an emerging technology, is easy to integrate into one application, but it's not that easy to write a Jetpack library that millions of developers will end up using. So that's why you haven't seen anything yet, but that doesn't mean we are not working on it. We're actually hopefully maybe you will see something soon, but there's no clear timeline on whether you will have it or not. But this is a technology we are following very, very closely.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, one of the things with multi-platform is, you kind of need to support Kotlin first, right? And moving towards more Kotlin related libraries and stuff has really been something that we've been doing over many years. And, I like to say there's Kotlin multi-platform and then there's Kotlin single platform. So we've been doing a lot of work to try and get a lot of our libraries kind of really great on that. So, whether that's rewriting libraries in Kotlin so that it can be used in a multi-platform capable library, has been kind of those steps along the way. So there's definitely a lot of things going on that kind of enable this, both from the Jetpack side and then also all the way through JetBrains.
Yeah. Actually, I like the Kotlin example because we've been using Kotlin for 5-6 years, actually a very long time. And even after we made it the official language, it took us a while to move Jetpack libraries into Kotlin because you have clients who just want to stay in Java. There used to be code size concerns. We made many improvements in our rate, in our tooling to make sure that Kotlin experience is good. And now we are finally writing libraries in Kotlin, as you've seen in Compose, as you've seen in Paging 3. So it takes a lot more effort for us to adopt a new technology, even though we can easily tell you to adopt it in your application. Jetpack kind of follows from behind.
Yeah, definitely. First things first. Cool. Next question from Eddie. What type of support is being given to reactive patterns such as MVI? Probably I can talk a little bit about this. That we don't actually focus on a particular pattern in this case, like MVI. We've been producing documentation for unidirectional data flow in general. And that's basically it doesn't really matter the pattern that you use. It's more about the best practices, how data flows into your app. And so, for example, for the Compose architecture documentation, we've added a lot of information about how to structure your app around this pattern, unidirectional data flow. But also, Compose, for example, is adding APIs to make all of this easier to consume from the UI layer. Apart from this, we're also planning to update the guide to app architecture to include these best practices and also guidance about how to consume the different flows or observable data holders from the view model layer. So yeah, keep an eye on that, and we'll update the documentation soon, hopefully. Cool. Next question from Brian. Will Datastore be backwards compatible for older OS versions?
Maybe I don't get the question because it is backwards compatible. I think it's API 14 if I recall correctly, but it is backwards compatible as every other Jetpack library.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
that's fair enough.
yeah, it's a very interesting thing when you think about where Jetpack is being unbundled libraries, and that you don't need to wait for the latest release to actually use any of these libraries. Like most of the libraries are backward compatible for many years, and even Jetpack Compose, which has some very strict requirements on things like art and stuff like that to really get the best performance, are still backward compatible to API 21. So, I mean, that's like a whole different kind of a world, right? And a lot of the Jetpack libraries around like app compat and even the core libraries are about kind of papering over some of those API differences so that, you know, you can write towards one target that kind of works on all API levels. I think that kind of makes things so much easier.
Maybe the question is more about like other OSs. So I was thinking I have a Raspberry Pi server at home, and there I use Datastore. It's not even Android, but I needed to store some structured data. I'm like, Datastore is the easiest way, so I just used it.
There you go.
Multiplatform. Done.
Done, yeah, checked. Okay, next question from Dinora. Libraries like Security Crypto could bring secure process to Room and Datastore. There is any chance we may have this support in the future? It maybe for you? Or Amanda?
Amanda, are you going to take it? Should I take it?
You can take it.
Okay, I'll take it. I don't know the exact security crypto library, but we do have some security libraries as part of Android X, and that's how we have the encrypted shared preferences. And we are going to have an encrypted version of Datastore as well. Now, you can already implement it yourself because Datastore has this serialization API, but we are going to provide it out of the box the same way we provide for shared preferences. Now, when it comes to Room, very similarly, you can already do it. Like there's a SQL Cipher library which provides an API that you can plug into Room, and that's fully supported. Whether we are going to have a Jetpack Room encrypted version or not is something we've been discussing, but to be honest, we have not decided. We don't fully know if there's any value for us to create something that already exists. So no promises on that, but there's already existing very reliable and good supported solutions out there.
Sure, makes a lot of sense. Cool. Another question. From Anonymous. I don't have any information here. In terms of documentation, will there be opinionated guides to migrating to new APIs like Camera X, Work Manager, Paging 3, etc.? Just like Hausal Serica's guide to migrating from live data to Flow. This is actually the blog post that it was mentioning earlier today. It is a great blog post. I recommend everyone reading it. And maybe, I mean, all of this also comes from your request. If we see that a lot of people are, looking forward to some sort of migration path from one library to another, just let us know because we will talk with the right people to make that happen. And so, yeah, ideally, yes, we should have migration paths for all of this, but sometimes it is complicated. So I would say just let us know that you have the need, and probably we will create it with the right resources.
Yeah, I will note that if you search for migrations on the developer.android.com, you will find a Paging 2 to Paging 3 migration guide that's already there. Same for the View Pager, the View Pager 2 has a migration guide. Even for navigation, we had a whole migration guide specifically for moving from a multiple activity kind of model into navigation with fragments. So there are some resources out there already. We always know we can always write more docs and more guides and stuff like that. That's something that we've been trying to make a really concerted effort on, but there's always more that we can do here. So there is an issue tracker, issuetracker.google.com. You can put in requests for developer.android.com. It's a whole component there specifically around docs. So if you're looking for actual official docs and migration guides, like we can't actually build those into the site itself. Like that's kind of a counterbalance to, the more blog posts, the example driven stuff that Jose's blog post was a really good example of. And, we really can do more of both, really. So just let us know.
Yeah, and I think one point too is that was noted in the question of having an opinionated guide, and I think we have gotten that feedback to be a bit more opinionated. So I do think that we'll be seeing a bit more of that as well as the developer requests come in to be a bit more opinionated and provide guidance in that way.
Cool. This next question is for you, Amanda, as well, and it comes from Zach. Regarding the versioning release changes Alan mentioned in the Jetpack update video, will Jetpack libraries only do alpha beta releases now, or will the release cycle still also include release candidates? If the latter, what's the difference between release candidates and betas?
So Jetpack libraries, so we do alpha beta releases, and there is a difference between, for beta, we first go through alpha, that's the initial release that goes out. We make additional changes for the beta version before going stable. So we want to make sure that if there are any bugs or anything like that, we capture it. We have time to address it and give developers time to give us feedback on the library, on how the APIs are implemented, to make sure that we're addressing the specific use cases that there are needs for out there.
There's also I do think we will keep having RC releases, and they do serve a great purpose. If you remember the old days of Android, everybody would wait for support library 26.0.5 before they update to the version. No one would update the latest stable because it will be broken. And we don't want to be in that state. So when we have one of those rules in Jetpack where the RC version, before shipping a library to stable, you need to ship an RC version with the exactly same code base. So if you make any bug fixes, then you need to do one more RC. And we want that RC version to bake to see enough number of applications on Play Store which ship with it. So that gives us a lot more confidence on the stable version that is actually stable. You don't need the patch release.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Great. Thank you. Next question is from Brian. What's the future of Flow? When will it be out of alpha beta? Probably I can answer this. Flow is not in alpha beta stages. Most APIs are already stable. And actually, with the latest release, 1.5, some of the APIs that were commonly used, like callback flow callback flow and channel flow, they are now stable. And so the future of Flow is the future is now. You will see that we are going to create more documentation. We have a guidance regarding flows in Android. And for example, we've been updating some of the areas where Flow may affect the architecture of your app. For example, we made some changes to the live data documentation to make sure, hey, only use live data for these specific use cases. So you will see that Flow are going to be more into the API surface of Android APIs. For example, a great example of this is Compose, which makes a huge contribution to composing. What I mean is that you can see flows highly integrated into Compose API. So yeah, the future is here. Flow is the future. Anything to add?
No, Flow is the future, said Manuel.
Awesome.
Read the title.
It's so fun looking at the paging 3 release, right, which rewrote basically all of the internals, and it looks so much nicer, and it's so much easier of a core library to actually reason about with things like coroutines and Flow. And it's realizing that it's not just your apps that could get easier, but it's actually the whole libraries can be so much easier to maintain and kind of understand at kind of a base level. That really makes me excited on trying to use this more in a lot of our APIs.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Next question. Yeah, so go ahead.
just a small thing to add. Yeah, like not only paging. You've seen the Datastore library is fully on coroutines. The new window manager library will start using coroutines. Actually, they had a release with that. So you will see like we are building all of our core stuff on top of Kotlin coroutines. So Flow is here to stay, that's for sure. Even though we'll still keep supporting things like our XJava because we want to meet developer where they are.
Yeah, that's right. Next question from Merab. Any plans regarding slowly migrating to KSP? You've been doing a lot of this work.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, KSP is Kotlin symbol processing, which is a symbol processing library for Kotlin language. Then it's kind of similar to annotation processors in Java. Now you know we have a bunch of annotation processors, like we have in Room, we have in data binding, and when you use an annotation processor with Kotlin, there's a step where Kotlin compiler creates Java stubs just to be able to run your annotation processor, because annotation processors use Java language model APIs. So KSP gets rid of that transformation and instead provides a symbol processing API to directly look into your Kotlin code. We've been working on Room's KSP support for like 7-8 months by now, and we have support in Room for Kotlin symbol processing. Now, this experimental support because Kotlin symbol processing is not stable. But once it becomes stable, Room will also have stable support for KSP. Now, that doesn't mean Room generates Kotlin code. It still generates Java code, but like KSP supports it, so you don't need to see it. And we have plans to support generating Kotlin code as well. Now, with all this being said, we are not going to go through every single annotation processor we have and convert them to KSP. We want to start from the more important ones, like the highly adapted ones like Room. We are looking into Dagger and Hilt, and we are looking into a couple of other Google libraries to migrate to KSP. It will take some time, but like it will happen. Very simple tests we have run in Room. Even in Room's integration test, it is 2 times faster, and that test only has annotation processing related code. So if you run it in a regular module, the speed increase would be a lot more impactful.
Yeah, I know that one of the top complaints for Dagger and Hilt is the build time increase. I cannot, wait to see like how much that improves with KSP in the future. So really looking forward to that. Cool. Next question from Muhannad. Where Tiles API doesn't look really Kotlin-y, especially with the whole builder pattern. Any plans to improve it in this regard? If so, is the improvement worth the effort or not? Worth the wait?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about this.
Sure.
So it's really awesome seeing all the Where stuff that team has been doing. And actually, they've been like Kotlinifying a lot of their API service. So if you look at like the watch face APIs, they've been completely rewritten from scratch and really kind of take a lot of the best of Kotlin into those APIs. And I expect that all the API servers will also go through a lot of that same kind of level. One of the things, especially with a lot of the Where libraries and especially Where tiles, is that they are still in alpha right now. So keep in mind that while some of the base layers might remain the same, and I expect that like some of the builder kind of patterns will still be there for people writing tiles in Java programming language or in Kotlin. That doesn't mean that that's the only API surface that you can have. So what I would suggest, file an issue, that issuetracker.google.com. There is a Where component on there. So file your issue now while it's still in alpha. Don't wait until the stable release, because then it'll be on to the next release, right? The 1.1. So just, really, if you have a feature request, or if you're like, hey, couldn't this be easier? Let us know, right? So much of it is, this is a community experience, right? It's not necessarily, we're not building libraries in a vacuum, right? And you're not, consuming libraries from nameless people, right? Like we're all here as part of the community. So, use that communication channels that you have, right? And, really let's try and all make these libraries the best that they possibly can.
Yeah, cool. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much to the panel for answering all the questions. And also, I want to apologize for all the questions that we didn't have time for, but I hope this was helpful to everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and hope to see you soon. Happy I/O. Bye.
Thank you.